Felix Kwakye Ofosu any Paul Adom Otchere PM Metro TV Good Morning Ghana program. So at a point there was a clash debate kakrabi echo so Felix kan na Paul kan na Kobani say Felix Kwakye Ofosu say over 80 NPP officials and almost any trials for various and unprecedented levels of corruption. That is a dream naked transition in the last 8 years under NPP no and yasem keto na about 80 NPP officials and they see an almost any trial for the various corruption cases. Yeah, the some but Paul Adom Otchere was say I didn't Attorney General and I had a press conference. No, about binimu di now we're exposing the binimu. No, is it the right thing to do? Well, Otchere na je for home. Now Paul say some of the corrupt cases, anka ye di asem no yen streaming live. Emo bia nhwe. Wow. Some to jam be dwam e dey ma oye na Janto TV. So I na Janto TV. But subscribe to the channel me say we are bell notification icon. You will turn on drop a video now. You'll be the first person to get it video. You will like it and you will enjoy it. So, share no like, leave you comment in the comment section of Facebook. What share I'm a front so and you be actually Facebook, Twitter, X now X formerly Twitter, and of course TikTok. We are live. Nana Janto TV. Yem fan someone no Felix Kwakye Ofosu. Eko PM. Good Morning Ghana programs. Metro Television. Nano, I know this some to just say, Ubeka and say Deputy Attorney General Ram Sai, Justice Ram Sai, any Daniel Domelevo, former Auditor General, and semi to just say, Ora cases no mudi and yan samana, if you ora munu by Nina, any bit manyanko for prosecutor. Nano, I know who say MP before I jump onto that conversation as I'm paying for me no cost at say anka, ye kind, say ora and for so be and so na kunkusia ga. Na dia ben na Felix abambium and I was say MP for Muntie. It looks like more bomb say run investigation na echoes on some of these corruption cases be failing, but Oshamabo say it will never fail. Na Adiana Ram side justice any former auditor general Daniel Domelevo editu jan normal. I mean ushe ora case over 2,000 cases almost as munya and yena and the best stand the test of time I will try I'm your prosecuting for in fact a bit more honomwa because of ora no mujumadi or mudintino a bit more honomwa asemene munye do se ekwachire na Felix edi munche mu bai o chire mu no ano de to just say in fact we reveal say over 80 NPP officials maku 80 almost standard trial as we speak for unprecedented levels of corruption. I also dream naked as say yeah a fat and penny 480 at your watching huno and yasam ketua no more there they are facing trial and yasam ketua na sa trial ni no as at free his excellency John Dramani Mahama or our TN investigation was setting underway abra yeso in office January 7 2025 enti yanko ni nkote Felix Kwakye Ofosu kopiem Good Morning Ghana program so Metro TV and somebody to jafa ora no ho and someone okafa NPP mpanyifo almost any try in fact revelation and worship menyen semonenka yenkweni nkote Felix Kwakye Ofosu.
To begin with, citing Justice Ramsai's pronouncements and that of Domelevo do not in any way undermine the fight against corruption that we have waged. To begin with, if the Deputy Attorney General says, the mere fact that you've acquired land at what is perceived to be a ridiculously low price does not in itself constitute a crime or an act of corruption. That is trite knowledge. Moro, it is trite knowledge. The mere act itself on the surface won't constitute a crime. But if it is investigated and found that the actors involved deliberately compromised their position and gave the land to you because of political connection, and that the land was valued at a certain price but was sold to you at a knockdown rate due to political considerations, that is where the crime will be. So that is why it requires investigation. So if tomorrow we woke up and learned that you bought some government property around Metro TV here for 10,000 Ghana cedis, that in itself doesn't mean that you've committed a crime. But if we find that the officer in charge knew that this land was $1 million, and because you are his friend or his crony, he gave it to you at 10,000, then there's an issue to investigate. So that the official who did that will be held liable for the action. That is essentially what the Deputy Attorney General says. And how does this detract from the fight against corruption? Again, I listened to the program on Joy News where Mr. Domelevo spoke. And in fact, the exact quotation has been published on Manjaro Online. So anybody interested can read. What he said was that from the very onset, everybody knew that the oral committee set up by President Mahama, which in any event was set up before President Mahama took office, and therefore could not have had any legal mandate anyway to do any prosecution or even investigation, was set up just to collect information from the people of Ghana or anybody who had it and process same for the use of the Attorney General once he is appointed. In fact, I put out that statement. Again, anybody who goes to my Facebook wall or Twitter page can download this statement and read it. It was very, very clear. In fact, the exact description I used was that it was a preparatory team. And to the extent that they didn't have any legal mandate, on what basis were they going to conduct investigations? So their mandate was very clear. Nobody who is being truthful could have been in doubt what the remit of their work was. It was said that if you, Moro, had evidence that Paul had engaged in any act of corruption, bring it. If you have what you believe to be evidence, add it. It will be sifted through, and then what is deemed to be workable will be then given to the Attorney General once he takes office. That is precisely what happens. So it is entirely possible that people will bring information that you can consider as garbage or rubbish. Yeah. And those people who worked in that committee were in no doubt that that could happen. It is a reason why after they submitted their report, the Attorney General gave it to accredited state agencies to conduct investigations into and find which ones merit further action. There has never been a period where anybody said that the over 2,000 complaints that they receive, all of them could be prosecuted. Nobody can think that way. They whittled it down to about 280 cases. Even then, there's no guarantee that all 280 cases will master scrutiny in court. So, for me, we are splitting hairs over nothing. We are wasting precious time on what is so obvious. But perhaps it is a tactic adopted by those who want to see the fight fail, in order to obfuscate the issues and draw us into a discussion of tangential, insignificant matters when the real issues are pending. So Mr. Dumelovo has not said anything that invalidates the work of the committee. Indeed, I heard one MP claim that the MPP has been vindicated. How does Mr. Dumelovo's statements vindicate you? As we speak, there are several MPP officials who were prominent in the Akufo-Addo government who are standing trial on the basis of the work that Oral did, which has been further investigated to establish clearly the culpability or otherwise of those named in there. So how does that vindicate you? So I think that the MPP are in too much of a hurry to poo-poo what is happening. Of course, you can understand the political motive behind it. They want to douse public interest in this and create a situation where people begin to doubt the efficacy of what is happening. So that can be understood from a political context. But let nobody be in doubt about the seriousness that is being attached to this. You see, Moro, the last time I was here with Paul, I highlighted it. Look, there is no dispute that the Akufo-Addo government supervised unprecedented levels of corruption. Sometimes it was palpable. It was clear that there was corruption going on. And you in the media, on a daily basis, bombarded us with exposés of corruption. At a point, we were just swarmed that one could not, you had hardly finished discussing one corruption allegation before another one is tossed in. And so you could even not tell which one to focus on, because there were so many. Because of that, the people of Ghana legitimately demanded action from President Akufo-Addo, who was unwilling to take such action. You could see clear wrongdoing that was not punished. Indeed, in many instances, he himself jumped to the defense of the persons who had been accused of corruption. And so it was clear that nothing was going to be done about that unless and until that government was booted out. Now, any responsible party or candidates who wanted to lead this country needed to respond to that public demand. Because Moro, this is a country where people have actually been shot, tied to the stakes and shot because of corruption, and it was supported. We are talking about the demise of Mrs. Rawlings. In her heydays, there were demands for blood for persons who had engaged in acts that pale into insignificance when compared to what has happened under the NPP. So the Ghanaian people have always demanded action about corruption. He spoke about how corruption was a major issue in the 2000 elections. That in 2016, and of course, in every election, of course, in every election, and so was it in 2020, so was it in 2024, so was it under President Kufuor in 2008, so was it in 2004 when the Malamisa kickback case emerged. You remember that President Kufuor's Wawa speech, he came under a barrage of criticism for appearing to endorse corruption when he justified the incidence of corruption in his government. So corruption has always been an issue. But have we as a people, has various governments responded to it in a manner that is satisfactory to the people of Ghana? Up until 2024, the people of Ghana thought no. So anybody who wanted to lead this country needed to make a firm commitment to addressing that particular concern. Then came in oral. Operation Recover Our Loot. And President Mama says, look, I have heard the cries of Ghanaians. I, as president, will take steps to ensure that we address this canker of corruption in a manner that is comprehensive, in a manner that makes it a high-risk activity for persons wanting to get into it. So what did he do? It was in a manifesto, captured in there. When he was elected, before he could take over as president formally, he put in place a mechanism to begin work on addressing the issue of corruption under the previous government. So then he set up the oral committee to receive information about acts of corruption and process that information. So it was raw material. Nobody could take that to court to seek conviction unless and until subsequent work had been done to establish firmly whether or not the allegations are true and whether there is basis, there is evidence to support him. That is what happened. When he took over, indeed a ceremony was held where the report of oral was then handed over to the Attorney General. He gave it to the NIB, the police CID, sometimes the National Signals Bureau is involved, sometimes the National Security itself is involved, and the Attorney General's office itself, and then Yoko, to look into these matters. And Moro, they won't tell, I'm sure Paul knows because he has his ears to the ground. Dozens, scores of NPP officials have been invited for questioning. On a daily basis, I get briefings, so they will give you a grade showing who has been called, who has been cautioned, who has been billed. It is not all of them that gain media attention, perhaps because of the personalities involved. They are not necessarily people who are in the front burner of our politics, so you may not know. But I can tell you, over 80 different people have been interviewed. Some of them have been given bail quietly. Some of them have people standing surety for them. Yes, 80 and more. And it is something that continues to happen.
Wow.
And let me tell you, all the 280 cases that Ora presented are being looked into, all of them, bar none. So that has been done. There are some that naturally, because of the actors involved and their own attempts to seek support from their base, it gets to the front burner, because when they are invited or arrested, they mobilize people to come and make noise to demand their release and all. So that one naturally is covered by the media. And then sometimes you in the media get wind of it, and so you blow it up, which is okay. But I can assure you that that is happening. Subsequent to this, the Attorney General then carries out detailed scrutiny of the facts of each case and makes a decision as to whether or not it should go to court. That is standard practice. That is what it is. Not everything that comes before the Attorney General or prosecutorial bodies that they take to court, because they in fact, there may yet be instances where there is evidence of wrongdoing, but perhaps the weight of the evidence may be insufficient, because in criminal cases you have to meet a certain high threshold that it must be beyond reasonable doubt. So there are instances where you see that yes, there are questions to be answered. The questions have not been satisfactorily answered, but if you take it to court, you may not get the evidence that is required to secure conviction. So you leave it at that until a time where you get additional evidence. But in many instances, there is hardcore, irrefutable evidence. But this Attorney General is a well-trained, well-heeled, experienced legal practitioner. He himself has represented many people in criminal cases. So he is fully aware of the threshold that must be met and the nuances that go into securing conviction. So because of that, he is doing a thorough job. He is going through the files, the dockets with a fine comb. Indeed, at the briefing, he gave you a list of cases that he has finished investigations on. Skytrain, mathematical sets, and what have you. He gave a list. It is there. You understand me? But you see, the Attorney General, like myself, is a public official, and therefore his work is also subject to scrutiny, especially in circumstances where certain quarters of Ghanaian society have sought to criticize him for what they believe to be a slow-paced approach to implementing oral. So it is necessary for him to come out to assure the public, give information about the work he is doing, and also account for the reason why. For instance, he will call Paul, question him, and take him to court. You see, Paul is a citizen of the country. His rights must be protected like mine and yours. So the moment the Attorney General decides that he will alter Paul's rights or act in ways that limit Paul's rights because he is taking him to court, ostensibly because Paul has committed some offense or the other. He is accountable for that decision, and therefore the people of Ghana must hear why he is taking such a step. Look, and Paul again is an exposed person. He's traveled the world over, so he knows that in the most liberal democracies in this world, including the United States of America, prosecutors on a daily basis engage the media and put out details of why they are taking some action against people. Indeed, the most recent one that we can cite in terms of its high profile is President Trump himself. This is he was a former president of the United States. Yet, a prosecutor in New York staged a press conference, announced that he had been indicted. He was taking him to court on the basis of ABCD. Indeed, as far back as 1994, when the O.J. Simpson case broke out, prosecutors faced the public on a daily basis to account for the reason why they were taking some steps. So it is not new, it is not unheard of for an attorney general or a prosecutor to mount a podium and disclose details of why he is taking people to court. The people of Ghana deserve that. There's nothing wrong with it. Again, Moro, we behave as though court processes in Ghana are secret. Indeed, because of the Atoforsin case, I went to court many times. Everything that is taken to court is actually public information. It just may be that you in the media are not interested, and so you don't highlight some of them. But in the more high-profile ones, you go to court, and in fact, you report. In some instances, the proceedings are telecast live. So every evidence, every accusation, every detail of the case is in the public domain. Indeed, you can apply to the court for proceedings to be given to you, and if the court reviews it and finds that there is basis for your demand, they will give it to you, which you will then publish. The statements of offense, they are published. Why? Godfrey Dami, when he was Attorney General, whenever he charged somebody in court, the charge sheet was made public. He published it. And the charge sheet is no different from what the Attorney General has spoken about in his media encounters. So why are we behaving that as if the Attorney General has done anything that is untoward? As if he's done something that we've not heard before? Why? In the Atoforsin case, at a certain point, the judge ordered that the proceedings be telecast live because he wanted transparency. And they were telecast live. People watched it. The 2012 election petition, the cameras were taken into the courts. In the 2021 too, the cameras were taken to the court. So we heard and saw everything that was discussed. So why are we behaving as though the Attorney General coming to tell us what he is taking to court, which will become public information anyway, is such a travesty of justice? Again, the Attorney General cannot convict anybody. If the Attorney General says, Moro, you have stolen 2,000 Ghana cedis, and now when you stole the money, you took it to Metro TV Rural Bank to save in your account, and that on a particular day you went to take that money to go and purchase a car, that in itself does not convict you. It is the reason why after the Attorney General's press conference, Hanan is not in prison. Hanan will have his day. The Attorney General said today, Friday 24th October 2025, I'm going to charge Hanan, his wife, and 2 others for the offenses that I have stated. He will be given his day in court. Hanan will be given every opportunity to present evidence to show that what the Attorney General is saying has no merit, and therefore the court should throw it out. That is what has happened in every case that has been taken to court. So I'm not sure why people think that if the Attorney General comes out to brief the public, he has committed an offense. Justice Louis Bandes said it, that sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Right.
If the Attorney General, a public official paid with taxes that you and I pay, is doing his work, and he feels that he's got to a point where he needs to keep the public informed, there's nothing wrong with it. The Ghana Accountability Series has been set up for all government officials who have anything to say about their work, to the extent that it is in the public interest, can come and do so. The Attorney General is a public official, mind you. Yes, in fact, in his case, his role is specifically defined in the Constitution. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, he is perhaps the only official whose job description is captured clearly in the Constitution. And often he is the only official whose job description is tied to his professional training. So it is a very important office. And I see no reason why the Attorney General cannot brief the people. But you see, it is understandable why the MPP will rail against this, and the likes of people who belong to the MPP will rail against this. Because somehow they believe that these disclosures tend to vindicate the concerns that the people of Ghana had for which reason they booted them out of office. They are not happy that the people of Ghana are getting to know the kind of wrongdoings that happened under them. Well, see, some of the issues are mind-boggling, and you wonder what exactly it was that President Akufo-Addo was doing as president.
Enti Felix anusi ya ana Paul Adom Otchere ebamu. I was Felix. I mean, one way I been say ore ye na juma, but the woman say, oh, who say investigations are cost you na. Nanka ye man in your live. There should be live broadcast. And do for to say adubo a case, you know, any gift your wire man someone or say SBM with the national service scandal na. And ke man in your live. Nanka Ghana phone you know who said the investigation no, and I say case no ye didn't ever court ever. I one name penny for ya been say na say you know. But on the hand and say it looks like Attorney General, I don't know where press conference. I know about Bobby Mudi, allegedly about we discuss it, we discuss it, discussing the file and say, yeah, by try and I say, yeah, by the call do bono, a man court net. I don't know who say emphasis on this because, yes, sir. I say, my optics, you know, even before say, as I'm looking at court, you know, from the optical point of view, any public point of view, you know, I say, Obiadika boss and penny for and sacred as some court, I'm here, dear Madi, who so obedi for us, obedi, bemono. Akwaku PM court on this. Paul Adom Otchere say on him penny for you say anka case when you high profile corruption cases no anka yen streaming live yen live nationwide broadcast say be Ghana phone you na be hu say the case in ekoso e court na mum the obese say Attorney General de na oye no hu ni say ensure am ko yesa because obobo bi ni mu din before so don court it looks like a public and ajaji omo even before Sasano ka be court whether somebody bim and somebody for your nim na no we na Felix Kwakye Ofosu esa ba mu biem there was a debate, you don't have to miss it. Stay on and enjoy this video. Felix Kwakye Ofosu and Paul Adom Otchere on Good Morning Ghana, Metro TV.
Yeah, just on the point of the Attorney General's press conference, which Felix justifies, I think he also said that a lot of the things the Attorney General will say will end up in court anyway. But that's really where the catch is.
Sorry, Robert Coleman.
Yes.
What's a copy of your book?
Oh, for sure.
Autographed.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yes.
That's
Of Wembley Stadium.
What do you call it?
Well, Robert's going to pay.
No. You have to pay
for the market.
You have to pay an invoice. Exactly. You have to bring an invoice.
No, he says
he
has to bring an invoice for marketing. He has to bring you an invoice for marketing your book.
You see, the Attorney General says these things, and Felix says that these are things that will be established in court, so there's no problem, and that Hanan and all of those people who are mentioned in those Attorney General press conferences have not been jailed because he mentioned them. All of that is true. But the fundamental principle that underpins legal issues is the all the term partem rule. You always have to hear the other side. When these matters are said in court, if the Attorney General comes in court and says, Hanan has stolen money, he has this, Hanan will be there. And the judge will say that, okay, lawyer cross-examine. And the public can see. And I agree with the view that these high-profile criminal trials perhaps should be given live coverage on television. And that would be another step in our democracy. The Kwabena Eduboahin trial goes on with so much controversy. The other day, Atachan, the lawyer, is reported to have walked out of the court and left Kwabena Eduboahin in there because he was concerned about something. And he keeps complaining about the attitude of the judge and things that we cannot see if we're not in court. It might be useful for the acting Chief Justice, and who is not going to become Chief Justice soon, to look at these matters and see whether we can have high-profile corruption. Because of the way corruption is so important to every Ghanaian, we may have to have these high-profile corruption trials beamed live on television for everyone to see, check the demeanor of the accused person, the demeanor of the Attorney General, the judge, and all of that, so we can have a real democracy working. So if you go and say somebody has stolen a press conference that you are addressed, that the person is not there, it's very different from saying it in court. You are entirely allowed to say it in court, where the person is there to challenge it. That's the real issue. But if you say it and I hear you and I don't hear the person, and because we all believe government, I believe you, and then it forms an image of the person in my mind, that's really unfair. And that's what I'm coming to about how the optics can be very different from the real prosecution. So yes, I agree with him. The Attorney General will say these things in court, but it is only in court that he should be able to say it. He should be allowed to say these details only in court, because there in court, there are processes. The person can respond. The judge can mention that this one is not part of it. The judge can say that, no, you are going to other matters that are not part of it. Stay within there. At the press conference, it's free for all, and the guy is not there. Should Hanan also construct a press conference today and say that this and that and that and that? He's not a government official. Not many people will believe his press conference as compared to the Attorney General's press conference. So yes, two things that we can take away. Let's see whether we can have a live coverage of high-profile criminal trials so every Ghanaian can see. And also, if the Attorney General speaks and the people are not there to defend themselves, that's really the crux of the matter. I think that's what I want to say about
but again, the audio party. In fact, instructively, within minutes, I think 5 minutes or so, of the end of the Attorney General's press conference, I saw Hanan issue a statement
Yes.
flatly denying what the Attorney General had said, and he's entitled to do so. He's entitled to do so. Indeed, in the political space, we are accused of all manner of things. I mean, I woke up one day and every people had all splashed all over social media that I had bought 2 houses because Mr. Rollins had said so. They said I had collected
But why did they mention your name?
Yeah, but every people have attributed it to me.
Oh, that's political mischief.
They said that.
Why did they attribute it to Stan?
Absolutely.
To
They
Stan
said,
or to
they
another
said
person?
that. They said
It's
that.
political mischief.
I collected some money to give to Charlotte. I said these things are said all the time. I issued statements debunking him, and I left with a clean conscience because I knew that it was completely false. You understand me? So that things will be said about you as a political actor is not unusual. But if the Attorney General says that I am the attorney, and mind you, prosecutions cost money. He has to put together a docket. Sometimes he has to hire special investigators, hire special auditors, hire experts to proffer an opinion on the facts that he has found. So it costs money. It is a public purse that will be opened up for that to be done. The Attorney General is an official. So once in a while we are there, we hear that the Attorney General has caused the arrest of Paul. Often when that happens, the reasons for doing so are not stated. So Paul is held in police custody or CID custody or BNI custody, or these days they are called NIB custody for some time. Party people swarm the place to protest and demand Paul's release. Then the BNI may issue a terse statement that they are holding Paul in connection with an investigation they are doing. Nothing is said. People can accuse the government of a politically motivated witch hunt against Paul because he is a vociferous critic of government. They can say that because Paul has a disagreement with a particular powerful person in government, they are teaching him where power lies and all that. Then the Attorney General takes the case over and says that I am going to court. That process somehow limits Paul's freedoms as a citizen, because rather than living his normal life, he has to go to court every time that the case is called. Sometimes, even in the course of the trial, fresh charges can be slapped on him, he can be rearrested and all of that. The Attorney General owes an explanation to the people on how he is using the mandate and how that mandate is being executed and why it is even necessary to use that mandate in the first place. So and especially in circumstances where there is legitimate public interest in oral, every now and then you hear public criticism. In fact, both within actors of the National Democratic Congress and out actors within, MP people go at the Attorney General, accuse him of a lackadaisical attitude. They say that oral is dead. And when Mr. Dumelovo made his comments a few days ago, the MPP jumped on it. I've told you about an MP, I think the MP from Menchia South, who has claimed that he has vindicated the MPP. So there's genuine public interest in how oral is being implemented. And oral was a campaign promise. This is a specific item based on which a section of the electorate voted for President Mahama. They expect outcomes. There's something called process communication. Between the time that you start something and the time that you finish, it's a certain period. In between that period, if you don't engage the public and communicate, they may think that you are actually not doing it. So if President Mahama has stood on a platform and promised that he will look into cases of corruption, where it is necessary to do retrievals, he will do so, and where it is necessary to prosecute, he will ensure that that is done. If word does not go out to the public that that is being done, the public may be justified in thinking that it has not been done. So it is part of the things that government is doing. For instance, when there is performance on the economy, the finance minister holds regular briefings. Indeed, in November this year, at a certain date, or on a certain date, he will go to Parliament to present the 2026 budget. He will give an account of the implementation of the 2025 budget and what we should look out for. The health minister, all things being equal, will be on the government accountability series on Monday to speak to some developments in the health sector. The fisheries minister has been there. The late defense minister, Dr. Manubuani, was there. Honorable Muntaka kick-started the process when he briefed the public. So why is the Attorney General unable to do the same things that all public officials do, accounting for what he is doing? And I have told you also that it is not novel. We say that this undermines democracy and that it affects the liberties of individuals concerned. But in the most liberal democracies, where even the rights of animals are upheld, I mean, there was an instance of a footballer, Zuma, he used to play for West Ham, who was videoed kicking his cat. Because of that, the supporters of West Ham demanded his immediate dismissal from the team.
Yeah.
I think that he was even fined by a court,
yes, he was,
for behaving that way.
Yes, he was.
So this is a society where even the rights of animals are preserved. let alone human beings, where the rights of human beings are taken very seriously.
Okay.
But even in those societies, the president of the country, when he is under investigation, becomes the subject of commentary by those doing the investigation.
Okay.
When a decision is made to prosecute, they account for why it must go. Why? O.J. Simpson, perhaps the most famous case. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, then Paul can correct me because he's been around longer. It was the first time that cameras were allowed into a court.
Okay.
The proceedings were aired every single day of the trial.
Okay.
The prosecutors publicly in front of the media stated what evidence they are relying on. In the end, O.J. Simpson was acquitted. So the mere fact that the Attorney General publicly says that you have done ABC does not mean that if you goes to court, necessarily the court will acquit you, because you will have opportunity to challenge the Attorney General's claims.
Okay.
And indeed, in the Kwabena Dubois case, the moment the Attorney General finished the briefing, Atachia issued a statement on behalf of his client, denying all the claims against him. Hanan did same. All those who have been accused have done same. But I don't think that we can say that there's anything wrong with the Attorney General telling us what he will say in court. And let me reiterate, court proceedings are not secret. In fact, except in exceptional circumstances where the judge can cite national security considerations or some other important consideration, all proceedings are open to the public. Tomorrow, you can walk into a court in Ghana on Monday and observe proceedings, whether you have an interest in it or not. So it is not something that is hidden. And every now and then, when major developments happen in court, it is always on the media. Because, in fact, Metro, you have a court correspondent, don't you?
Right, we do.
Why do you have that correspondent? So that he will bring to you what is happening in the courts.
Right.
So I don't think that the Attorney General has done anything wrong. It is something that will continue.
Okay.
It is in the public interest that these things are done.
Okay.
But the ultimate test is in the court. Nobody is convicted because the Attorney General says he has committed a crime.
All right.
Abujafo yadamu nyina ase yemfa dwumadi ne ensia Paul Adom Otchere ene Felix Kwakye Ofosu ana mote omonka Metro TV Good Morning Ghana programs yede bremo e wona na Janto TV me gidi ese video yi we enjoys ansa we enjoy am pacho like ma na we are leave a comment in the comment section na face video yi wa share ma foforo so anya bi ahwe enche de so katoma na na kodjo Janto a obetene nka e wona na Janto TV. So for now yakramo, bye bye, peace.